What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. Alright, this story's called Karen Pulls a Knife on Me in a Toy Store. My sister is a U.S. Marshal and was with me. And what? Offered emotional support? Because it just says she was with me. Says she has a knife.
It's okay. I'm a U.S. Marshal and I'm with you.
Thanks. That's my hypothesis. This story dates back a bit to when I was about 6 weeks shy of 21. For reference, my family is a bit scattered age-wise. I have two older half-sisters, same father, different mother, who are Anne, 12, and Betty, who does not appear in the story due to being halfway across the planet, 10 years older than me, and two younger half-brothers, same mother, different father, who are Ed, 7, and Chuck, 11 years younger than me. At the time, I lived on my own as my parents had both passed away and I had gotten a subsidized apartment. Note, I still have the subsidy. I'm on my third apartment since this story. Massachusetts is expensive. Massachusetts is expensive. That's so hard to say. Massachusetts is expensive to live in, and there is no way in hell a retail worker can afford to live alone here without some form of assistance. So Chuckaroni's 10th birthday was coming up, and Anne was in town visiting her mom, Lucy. Anne is a U.S. Marshal who was working out of San Francisco at the time. She offered to take me out to the nearby toy store to shop for a present for Chuck after I got off of work at the time unsafely confined to New England holiday-themed bargain store. My store's dress code for us peons, at least at the time, was pretty much whatever was not offensive for a shirt, pants, or shorts, closed-toed shoes, and a green apron/smock with the store logo on. So at the blessed time of 4 p.m., Anne picks me up, we go over to Toy Store, and we split up. Me going for the video games to get a Game Boy game I knew my brother would want, my sister going over to the bikes as his old one had been destroyed by an idiot bus driver, thankfully while my brother was not on it. Ed was also with us, as Anne had picked him up at the rink near his high school after he had finished hockey practice, and he came along with me. After locating the game, getting the employee there, Natalie, who I was dating at the time, to get it out of the locked case for me and I pay, I start chatting with Natalie and asking about our upcoming date night. After a few minutes, another customer comes over. Ed and I start to walk to the front, and as we pass the display of Xboxes, of which Ed had just gotten one for Christmas, and I had one as well, and we were both early adopters of Xbox Live. What a gamer. I hear the mating call of the wild Karen. Mating call? What are you implying? Excuse me? I ignore this as I'm not wearing the uniform of any store. I'd left my apron in Anne's rental car and keep walking.
Aren't you going to help me, you fat love?
I'm a large guy, 6'1", and at the time around 300 pounds. I've battled with depression since my mother died when I was 11 and 8 months after Chuck was born. Screw drunk drivers. And I have a habit of eating to cope. My weight and depression, along with my poor eyesight, conspired to keep me out of the Coast Guard when I tried to enlist on September 12, 2001. I don't work here.
Of course you do. I see you here all the time talking with that thing by the Nintendos.
Note, Natalie is trans and was in the process of transitioning at the time. She wasn't very passable at the time. Ma'am, that's my girlfriend.
Oh, so you're a bundle of sticks bun for fuel too. And where are you taking this boy?
Pointing to my brother, Ed. That's my brother? I sense this is starting to get ugly, so I turn to Ed and quietly, but firmly say, "Go find Amy, now!" Ed literally runs. He knows that when I get quiet, crap has hit the fan. Munolic Hulk mode, stage 1 has arrived. Munolic? What is that from? Karen starts walking towards me menacingly, and I start backing up, not realizing she is backing me into a corner.
gay people are kid diddlers.
And
All trans people should be executed publicly.
and similar. I finally realize I'm literally backed into a corner with this crazy Karen in front of me, and I have no escape. Monolic Hulk mode stage 2 kicks in. Leave me the hell alone! That's when it happens. I see the knife in her hand. I still have the box cutter from work in my pocket, but it will do nothing in this case except to maybe scratch this crazy bimbo. Monolic Hulk mode stage 3 imminent. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. But then, the next thing, everyone in the store, maybe even several people in the parking lot hears,
Federal agent, drop the weapon.
3 things happen in the next second. Karen and I turn to see Anne pointing her gun at Karen. Anne? I knew I should have said Anne. That was my first thing, but I was like, Amy's 2 syllables, so like more easy to say, ironically. Karen drops the knife on the floor and Karen's bladder evacuates, leaving a bright yellow puddle on the floor. Natalie and Ed appear on the scene, followed shortly after by the store manager and the loss prevention officer. Before I could fully process what had just happened, Karen is in handcuffs and has resumed screaming all sorts of vile homophobic and transphobic crap, and Anne is asking me if I am alright. I just collapse as the adrenaline stops, smacking my head on the shelf. I woke up 10 minutes later to a paramedic taking my vitals, Natalie, Ed, and Anne looking at me with worried looks on their faces, and the absence of banshee-like rantings from Karen. Aftermath. I wound up spending the night in the hospital. I had a concussion, a hairline skull fracture, and a nasty cut from hitting the shelf. Still live alone, but I've dealt with some of my depression issues to the point I can now work full-time. Ed is now a major in the Air National Guard and has a lovely wife and 5-year-old triplets. Chuck is an FBI agent, and he and his boyfriend just announced their engagement. Anne is still with the Marshal Service, mostly handling administrative tasks these days. Betty is still the quietest of the family. Betty? Did I guess that one right? Or did that ever come up? I don't remember. My memory is so bad. Natalie and I split up a year later. We're still friends, and she is now married with 3 adopted kids and is managing a big blue electronics store. Karen is still in prison. She was initially sentenced to 2 years in prison, plus 5 years of probation, attempted assault with a dangerous weapon, plus hate crime enhancements, but apparently got into a fight that nearly killed another inmate, so she ended up getting another 15 to 25 added to her sentence, and was recently denied parole for the 2nd time. Edit! Changed initials to fake names, was very tired when I originally posted. I also got a letter from the DOC today, or DOC, Department of Corrections, today, January 12th. Karen died of Brovid while serving her sentence. Yo! That is trippy! Ooh, that creeps me out, man. That just makes me feel weird. I gotta watch High School Musical or something now. This story's called I'm Looking at the Nutrition Facts, Not Stocking the Shelves. There have been a few times when people have stopped me to ask if I work there, but I've always just been able to say, no, sorry, and that's always the end of it. But today, that wasn't the case at all. This is one of those ordeals that never actually happens in the real world, or so I thought. This is what actually happens when things get out of hand. Till here at the end, this is definitely a long one, but hopefully worth your time. So a bit of background about me. I'm a bodybuilder, power lifter, and nutrition is very important to what I do. Whenever I go shopping, I like to check the nutrition labels on ingredients and foods I'm interested in. That way I can eat enough food to not be hungry without sacrificing flavor and still fitting into my daily calorie intake. As you can imagine, I will check multiple different versions of the same ingredients earbuds in an aisle and put them back as I search for the best option. Well, earlier today, I went on a pretty big restock for the house. I also found a bunch of new recipes that I want to try, some of which called for some ingredients I don't work with often. For the most part, the store wasn't too busy and nobody really bothered me as I walked up and down each aisle. I also had some earbuds in and my phone out with my shopping list on. Keep in mind, I'm also wearing a tank top and sweatpants, which you're probably not going to get away with working as a grocery store employee. As I'm looking through spices in the baking aisle, I hear someone yelling over my music. It was kind of surprising since I listened to it pretty loud, so I took an earbud out and looked around. And this lady just said to me,
Can't believe they let employees wear those stupid things.
I cut her off and said, I wouldn't know because I don't work here. This seemed to upset her greatly as she got really aggressive when she responded by saying,
Don't frickin' lie to me. I've seen you stalking the shelves. I'm a paying customer and you need to help me right now.
I'm a very easygoing guy, but when a random stranger speaks to me like this, I'm not gonna put up with it. So I said, I don't have to do crap, especially if you talk to me like that. Get lost. She lost something, that's for sure. She yelled,
Excuse me? How the dare you?
I just turned to walk away at that point. All of a sudden, she grabs the back of my tank top and I yank myself away, saying, What the hell, lady? Don't touch me! She takes a couple steps back, probably realizing that I am not the kind of person you want to pick a fight with.
Fine then, I'm finding a manager. Say goodbye to your job, you lazy, useless piece of poop.
I was already putting my earbud back in, so I just said, Whatever, lady, bye. I grabbed my spices as she walked off in a huff and continued my shopping. I wasn't even wearing what employees at this store wear. Like, how could I possibly be mistaken for an employee? Seriously, I cannot stress enough how much I don't look like I work there. A couple of minutes later, I'm in the next aisle over and I see her again with the manager. I don't hear what she's saying because I've got my music on, but with the way she was pointing her finger, I'd imagine she was probably saying that I'm the one who didn't help her. They started walking up and I took both earbuds out this time. Manager approaches me and I hear the lady saying,
He should be fired for cussing at me and threatening me.
Manager is like, Yeah, he doesn't work here. He's wearing a tank top. That's definitely against dress code. Well, anywhere. She didn't like that answer.
Then why is he stalking your shelves?
I chime in and say, I'm comparing calories in foods and picking the best ones to stay healthy. Maybe you should try it sometime. You definitely look like you need it. She stands there for a moment with this expression on her face that looked like her brain didn't process what I just said. Then she got surprisingly calm. It was kind of pathetic at that point. At least I thought so. But the manager actually seemed to side with her and said, Still, I can't have anyone assaulting people in my store. Whoa, what? I must have missed the part where she said I assaulted her, so I ask him to repeat himself. And he explains that it is a criminal offense to assault someone and that the police could get involved. Lady goes from pissed off to real smug, like I'm about to get it. Good, I said. Call them down here. I'll wait. I know this store has security cameras on every aisle, and I am so sick of people like her getting away with this level of entitlement that I really did wait. Police show up a few more minutes later. We go to a back office in the store, and they're really grilling me, asking me why I would attack someone if I was on any drugs, etc. I'm kinda used to this treatment. People take one look at me and just assume I'm some meathead bodybuilder with roid rage. I answer all their questions by saying, Look at the security footage. It'll answer all your questions. The more I said it, the more frustrated they got. This dude sounds like Angela. Oh, I'm tired of people making fun of my petite frame. I'm joking, bro. Finally, they leave the room. I just wait there patiently for about 45 minutes, then they come back and apologize. The manager manager told us you assaulted her. We should have checked the footage, but you do fit the profile. I then say, why? Because I have bigger muscles than most people? Is that a crime? They know they can't really say or do much about it since they made some pretty big assumptions. I got some pretty big assumptions. If you'd like, you could press charges against her since she did grab you according to the security footage. And you know what? I said that I would like to press charges. Normally, I don't like to waste my time dealing with courts, but hours of my day were already wasted today, and I want her to know that she can't get away with it. A few minutes later, the manager offers to let me just go home with my groceries for free, probably a bit scared that I might sue the store for discrimination or something since I was so ready to press charges on the lady. On my way out, I saw them putting her into the back of a police car, and she was screaming profanities at the officers. I've already talked to an attorney who is in the process of obtaining the security footage. Court date is gonna be in March, but should be pretty straightforward since the evidence is in my favor. I've never actually had to press charges like this before, so I have no idea what to expect. All I know is that even if she ends up only getting fined $1 or has to do even a minute of community service, I'll have a smile on my face. Anyway, that's been my crazy day. I know there are similar stories here of crazy Karens and stuff, and I always thought they were entertaining and would sometimes even think about what I do in a similar situation. My reaction certainly wasn't what I thought it would be though, and it wasn't as entertaining being on the receiving end of the story. At least I got some free groceries out of it though. Edit, I want to clarify how the process behind pressing charges is going to work. The court date I got is really just more of a screening where I'll answer some questions and find out what happens next. That's also why it's happening all the way in March. And due to the pandemic, they are trying to cut down on in-person interactions, so this will all happen over video conference call. My attorney friend got back to me a couple hours after I posted this and explained that this will mostly be hands off on my part, and I won't have to worry about court costs, legal fees, or hiring him to represent me. Ah, my man! I hope that clarifies things, as I myself didn't really understand what the paperwork I got yesterday meant. Some other people in the comments explain things in more detail as well, so please read into that if you're interested, and thanks to all of you who explained how it works, because the police sure didn't do a very good job of that. Hey man, if you want to learn about law, so personally I recommend maybe going to like law school. I heard Harvard's pretty good. Maybe Princeton or like Cornell if they've got like a law program. I've heard those are pretty good schools. Or personally, I went an alternative route than the traditional lawyer. See, for instance, I'm a practitioner and expert in bird law, and for that reason, my schooling, my education was at the hands of Legal Eagle on YouTube. Some may argue one's effectiveness over the other, but I have yet to lose a case, so take that how you will. Anyway, this is a really pretty cool story. I really wanted this guy to Hulk out and just roid rage like how every muscular person does. That's what he's telling me, right? That's what this story was talking about. How like he had to suppress his inner desire to like smash this absolutely defenseless woman because like he has big muscles, so like it makes him like incredibly aggressive and mean. Not at all easygoing. Oh my god. The funny thing is there are people who think I'm being serious, and you know what? I am. Muscular people are mean. OP, I'm sure you're a bully. Mythical ace. More like mythical asshole. It's a joke, OP. You're a sweetheart. I'm sure you're a beefcake with the heart of jelly, and we're good friends, okay? Mwah!
This story's called, Where's the Flippin' Tonic Water? A funny flashback to my days in the beer industry. I was a level 3 of 4 in the company despite being a 24-year-old, and my days consisted of meetings, sales presentations, and meetings. Nothing was better than holidays when I chose to take off the business suit, throw on some blue jeans and a Miller Lite brand polo, and help the distributors sling beer on the shelves. One day I made the unfortunate decision to wear a red polo at H-E-B, a grocery store in Texas. Employees wore red polos. Despite the fact that mine had a huge Miller Lite logo on it and was a different shade of red, I spent my day apologizing to customers that I didn't know what aisle X, Y, or Z was on. Then came the Karen in all her Karen glory. I feel someone grab and yank my polo as I'm throwing a 24-pack into the cooler. Where the flip is the tonic water? There is no flipping tonic water. I need my darn tonic water. What is wrong with you people? It went on for probably 45 seconds when I held my hand up to her face and said, "We don't work here." Karen turned red, all flustered, and started spluttering and apologizing. "I thought you were an employee." As she walked away, I told my distributor loudly, "Wow, what kind of miserable person speaks to anyone like that?" Not a great comeback, but I bet Karen thought twice before verbally assaulting an employee again. Well, let me correct you right there, sir. Karens do not learn. Karens that were Karens are currently Karens that are Karens and will always be Karens that are Karens. This story's called No One Works Here Anymore, a slightly different I Don't Work Here. Two things before we start. This is my brother's story and not mine. And two, this is a different kind of story to what is usually seen here, but hopefully not too different to not fit in here or go against the rules. Okay, so here we go. My brother works for a removal firm that essentially shells out old businesses. For example, if a shop or cafe gets shut down for whatever reason, the firm comes in to remove signs and display boards, disassemble counters, and that sort of thing. Yesterday, he was working at what used to be a cafe in town, a few hours away from where we live. The main doors were wide open as there were many people carrying things in and out of the place. Important to note, my brother was in what used to be the main area of the cafe when he looked up and saw a man with an assistant's cane walking in through the front door. My brother came up and asked him if he could help him. The guy said, "Yes, a table for one, please." My brother responded, I don't work here. No one works here anymore." And went on to explain that the place had been shut down and he was just there to clear everything out. The guy was upset. Apparently this cafe used to be one of his favorite places, but no one had told him it was shutting down. He didn't kick up a huge fuss or anything, he just apologized and left. Okay, so this story is just sad because, you know, the dude's blind, so he can't really see anything at all, because that's what blind is. And he just woke up that day and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to my favorite cafe." So he makes his way down to the cafe. However, a blind man would do that, only to be turned around and said his cafe was shut down. Come on, universe, he wanted his coffee, or whatever he wanted to get, at least. Alright guys, here we have a pretty wholesome story. It's called, She Was Fully Aware I Didn't Work There, but Was Unlikely to Get Help Otherwise. Background. I consider myself deaf, though I'm really just severely hard of hearing. I don't like wearing my hearing aids because after a while my ears get sweaty and it gets a little uncomfortable. Think about it like wearing cheap earbuds in for a while. Same experience. I just happen to have my hearing aids in because I tend to like being able to catch more of what I miss, and it allows me to have better conversations without needing to sign. However, in public, I tend to do what's called com sign, which is signing while I'm speaking. It's out of habit more than conscious effort. The story. This is in no way what seems typical for the subreddit, as it doesn't end with a spectacular finale. My roommate and I were shopping at Wally World, just getting a few items like milk, diet soda, stuff I missed for burrito night, etc. I was wearing a dark gray shirt, black slacks, black shoes, black socks, glasses, and hearing aids. Roommate was also not wearing close to the colors either. Gray sweatpants and a black shirt with two wolves on it. So no way we could potentially be mistaken for employees. Well, coincidentally, it wasn't being mistaken for an employee's, but the fact that I was speaking with my voice and signing. I wasn't paying attention to this gal, probably about 20. However, my girlfriend had noticed her and she signed, "Help me." My roomie, who needs signing slowed down for him, still asks me vocally to direct my attention at the lady. She signs again, "Help me." I sign, "How help you?" Biggest smile ever in the universe. She signs that she knows I don't work here, but she needed help to speak to the store manager about coupons for batteries for cochlear implants. I signed to her, telling her that I think Walmart accepts coupons for their competitors, but I'm not sure, but I think a regular employee would know since they're trained for it. And that's exactly what we do. Roomie and I stopped our shopping, went up front to the cashier, and I asked the question of the century for this gal. "Do you guys accept competitor coupons for things like hearing aid batteries?" "I believe we do, but I'm new, so let me just make sure." At this point, the cashier calls for a customer service manager who shows up less than a minute later. What's the problem? Can we accept coupons like this for hearing aid batteries? Yes, we can. If it doesn't scan, just do a price match and put it in your drawer. Meanwhile, during their conversation, I'm signing to the deaf lady with dead battery having cochlear implants what's being said. I sign to her to go pick up her batteries and point to where they are. She runs back in a couple minutes while my roomie and I were chatting with the cashier, mostly about cats. Cashier rings up the batteries, applies the coupon, deaf lady pays, and immediately uses a battery in her processor. She then thanks us and hands me $1. Off she runs into the night. We've seen each other before numerous times over the last 3 years of me living here at that store, and other places around town. But this is the first time I've personally interacted with her. Roomie and I finish our shopping and end up at the cashier again. It was late at night, so take what you will. There's no assault, no sense of entitlement, no police involvement, no screaming, yelling, or crying. Just a deaf gal with a cochlear implant that needed some brief help being able to communicate with the hearing world while out of batteries. Extra, extra, read all about it. I'm going to cut in with some things that I think may come up in the comments. Before you ask about the title as to why she wouldn't have been able to get help otherwise, while it's true that with her cochlear implant she'd be able to hear, but how well is up to the person. And her batteries were dead, so no sound until she puts the batteries into the processor. So she was completely deaf. And lip reading is still difficult, even for me. While I can catch things like vowels, it's pretty bad when you're completely deaf. Think of bad lip reading on YouTube. My roommate and I were the middlemen for her being able to communicate with people. And why didn't she just speak? I know for a fact she is able to, but she has a major deaf accent according to my roommate. I didn't hear her well, but he could. There is also this thing that many hearies have that are complete myths that are still believed today, even unfortunately by hospital staff like nurses and doctors. Stuff like deaf people can't talk, all deaf people sign, things like that. Admittedly, this is also why when I go to a store by myself, I immediately become mute by choice so I don't have to deal with the BS. So I'm thinking her reasoning is so she too didn't have to deal with the same BS. Regardless, speaking and getting spoken back to don't help. She's deaf and had no sound at the time. It's true that I speak, and I speak very, very well, largely due to years of speech therapy and having hearing aids as a child. This isn't the case for everyone, as each person has differing levels of what they can and cannot hear. While I'm comfortable with how well I speak verbally, not everyone is, so some people with cochlear implants are still likely to sign due to knowing how their voice sounds. So that's a confidence thing. Why didn't she just try the coupon with the batteries instead of getting someone that could help her communicate? I'm pretty sure she just happened to see me rather than going out of her way to look for me. So it's easier for her to sign to me requesting help than it is to potentially get to the register with her stuff and not being able to hear the employee say if the coupon could be used or not. This could also be a confidence thing too, having at least some level of being able to communicate with hearies back and forth while her cochlear implant was out of commission due to batteries. Why did she give me $1 if she was looking to save the money? The coupon she had saved her a little over $2 on the batteries, and it was a darn good coupon, so major score. I guess she saved enough from it and wanted to tip me for being her middleman in communication. I know I've been in scenarios where I could turn my hearing aids off until I know I was being spoken to, then turn them on in an effort to save batteries because I was on my last set and couldn't get more for another day or two away. Didn't any of the employees know how to sign? I know for a fact there are a couple of cashiers and one stalker that at least knows basic signing and can say stuff like, "Hi, my name is blank, have a good day," etc. But their knowledge is nowhere near the point of being able to assist without signing beyond that without resorting to slowly, painfully slow, spelling. Like W-H-A-T, hamster wheel spinning, Y-O, 30 seconds later, U. I generally commend someone for knowing the ASL alphabet well enough that low speech bandwidth of just spelling everything rapidly is better than no signing at all. This is true for most deafies in a hearing environment. That's all I can think of. Moral of the story, not everyone that asks for help thinks you're an employee. Some know for a fact that you're not but still request help. You may be the only person in the entire store, even counting the employees, that is able to help quickly and reliably. That was incredibly wholesome, and I really enjoyed reading that. And I'm interested in knowing if we have members of the deaf community listening right now. And before you think that was a really stupid question, no, it was not, because, first of all, not everyone who's deaf is fully, completely deaf. And two, there are hearing aids, as we just read about. And anyways, if you are a member of the deaf community, let me know if you've ever had any nice, wholesome encounters like this one. Because I can imagine needing help can be a scary situation because, you know that not everyone will be able to help you. Anyways, moving on. This story's called, Today I Flabbed Up by Starting an Ant War in My Backyard. I found ants a few months back for the first time in my yard. Decided to play war. Attack 1. I tested out chemicals, not ant killer, to see what all would happen to ants if they were attacked by all sorts of stuff like dry ice, off spray, psychedelic mushrooms, another batch of different ants, and a few other methods. Attack 2. I realized that pretty much nothing was stopping them. Even if they suffered mass casualties, they'd just make a new mound. So I decided to go all out with the method I found most useful. Still no ant killer because that's a pusillanimous move in war. I went for the bubble bath soap, the heavy guns. I filled each mound up with bubble soap and began blasting my hose directly into the mound. Beautiful! The soap comes up from the bottom pits of the mound, creating a mushroom cloud effect, filling each and every tunnel they have. The thousands of ants are raised out of the ground and into a large soap bubble where they slowly die. Now here's where things get interesting. I started feeling kinda bad. Their larvae started forming faces prematurely, and the ants themselves began looking a little, mutated. I assumed I had one. I assumed they had enough. I was so wrong. A few days later, I realized the ants seemed annoyed. They started to grow new mounds at a terrifying rate. It's time for ant killer. I spread it throughout my yard, presumably killing off the rest of their army, which I did for about a week. They return. I call pest control. He uses his government-issued weapons to take care of them for me. It was embarrassing, but foreign aid really saved the day. A healthy yard is looking promising. No, literally 2 days later, I wake up in my bed to ant bites. There were about 5 in my bed and a full line of ants going towards my bed from the window. They were back and they were coming straight for me. Flash forward to today, I have called 2 different pest controls. They have informed me that my house walls are probably infested with ants now. Unsure of where we go from here because I'm nervous about telling my landlord. It appears as though I have lost the great ant battle of Backyard, Texas, and that the war is nowhere near ending. Nothing I do can stop them, and they won't stop coming. No. No. Oh, okay. Gosh. Okay, you think that he's talking about freaking White Walkers the way he's talking about the ants. Jeez. Anyway. Ants in Texas are insanely annoying. They are relentless. They do not stop coming. I sprinkled pesticide, freaking cinnamon, which is supposed to be a very, very effective repellent. I've sprinkled cinnamon all over ant entrances, and they don't care. They don't give a crap. That's like the ant equivalent of like spamming someone with rotten eggs, and they're just like, oh yeah, give me more! This story's called, Today I Fudged Up by Eating Rice Noodles. Firstly, this is gross, but it doesn't really involve bodily fluids. It's not safe for work in a sexual or violent sense, but I'm adding the tag just in case. Secondly, I wanted to give this a more interesting title, but I didn't want to spoil the ending. Thirdly, I know I'm publicly humiliating myself, but hopefully my stupidity helps you feel better about yourself. I'm a fan of rice noodles, even though I don't eat them very often. Last night, I decided to have a simple meal of rice noodles, the thinnest kind, with vegetables. It just so happens that I am a boring person who enjoys rice, and consequently, rice noodles plain, with no sauce added. And so there I was, eating my dinner that was pretty much plain white aside from the green, orange, and yellow from the added vegetables. After I was finished, I decided to go and watch YouTube on my computer. And so there I was, relaxing, my attention absorbed by the video I was watching. My butt began to itch a bit, so I briefly scratched my butt crack and continued watching. I soon forgot that I had even touched my butt. Now it is time for me to make a confession, and with this, you'll probably be able to guess how this story will end. I do get pinworms sometimes, but I take the necessary measures to help abolish them, and I usually feel better after a few days. Earlier that day, I had noticed that I had pinworms again, and so I had washed all my clothes and sheets and washed my body and hands extra thoroughly. I hadn't noticed any worms or itching in my butt that day, so I thought they were already gone. Anyway, I eventually saw something on my index finger when I moved my gaze away from my screen. It was thin, white, and translucent, and only a couple of centimeters long. I thought I saw it move a bit, but it was so tiny I assumed I had just imagined it since one of the medications I need can sometimes make my vision woozy. Still focusing on YouTube, I immediately assumed it was a tiny section of rice noodle that somehow remained stuck on my finger. I absent-mindedly licked it off my finger and swallowed it right away. It didn't really taste like anything, but my finger smelled like butt, and I felt pretty disgusted with myself once I remembered that I had not long ago itched my butt crack with that finger. I soon realized that I had even more reason to be disgusted with myself. As I watched another video, my butt began to itch more, and there was a familiar, uncomfortable feeling that was now inside my anus. I recalled the pinworms, and I felt annoyed that the parasites must still be inside me after all. And then my mind went back to the mysterious, whitish object that had been on my finger. It had moved, hadn't it? Oh no! Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you're having a bad day, just remember, you're not the dude that ate his booty worm.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story is called, Just Because I Wear a Blue Polo Does Not Mean I Work Here. This happened a few months ago, so some details may be a bit fuzzy to say the least. Now, I work at Six Flags, and the uniforms for the team members are blue polos and either black pants for food and tan pants for games, retail, etc. I'm also really into guns, and seeing as I can't own a real one, I own some airsoft guns, and recently had gotten a flashlight grip for one of them. But I didn't get batteries for it, so I'm checking on Amazon, seeing which ones it took, and I decided to go to Walmart after work. It was hot as garbanzos that day, so I wasn't wearing a normal t-shirt under my uniform, and said, F it, what's the worst that could happen? I was also listening to music. I walk in and go over to the batteries at the front and can't find them. So I decided to go to the back of the store to see if there were any back there. Sure enough, there are, so I grab them and afterwards go to the board games to see if I could find Uno Flip. I did and grabbed that and started to head to where the shaving cream was. Then this lady comes down the aisle. Excuse me. I'm lip-syncing country music while looking for sensitive shaving gel. Hello? She snapped her fingers. I'm still lip-syncing country music. Ah! She takes my headphones off. What the heck are you listening to? Kenny Chesney. I was listening to She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. Oh no, my butt fell off. Okay, 1, you shouldn't be listening to music during work, and 2, that isn't appropriate for work. Okay, and I should care why? Because you work here? No, and shouldn't you be wearing a name tag? Me being the sarcastic piece of salmon I am, yeah, I should wear a name tag to a place I don't work at. Don't talk back to me, I can have you fired. I point to the Six Flags logo. Look, I don't work here and I'm not even old enough to work here, so please just go away. Go get your manager. I don't work here, lady! I grab my headphones, say screw the shaving cream, and just go to the self-checkout. After that, she got this worker who, I don't know if he was a manager or not, but I was out the door by the time she spotted me. I don't know what happened afterwards, if anything did, because I never saw the lady again. But yeah, that's my story. One thing I've noticed with Karens and other entitled denizens of the universe, they go big on color association. Oh, you're wearing a red shirt, you must be a Target employee or a Blood Gang member. Or,
Yellow, you must be banana store man. At least they're smart enough to get color associations, you know? Hopefully their brains evolve a little bit further than that, eventually. This story's called Not Santa, Just a Customer. This happened last December. My husband and I had gone to the Blue Megastore to look around for some gifts for our nieces and nephews. We had our kids with us, so we decided to split up. He would take our kids over to play with / look at the PJ Masks toys while I scoured the arts and crafts aisle for my niece. I'm dressed fairly casually though. I can see why this guy mistook me. I was wearing khaki pants, a black undershirt, and a short-sleeve bright blue shirt that had Toothless wrapped up in fairy lights on the front of it. I was also sporting a Santa hat that said Merry Christmas on it. The store's uniform has casual pants and bright blue vests, and since this guy approached me from behind, it's understandable. As I'm looking for the craft sets, I hear some guy behind me go, "Hey, Santa!" I'd forgotten I was wearing the hat, so I didn't look around, but picked up the box I was considering to see what was included. Excuse me, Santa?" Confused now, I look around and spotted some guy who was in his mid-40s and staring right at me. "Hey, sorry, I was wondering if you could tell me where the Paw Patrol toys are." I turned fully to face him. "Oh, sure, they're just..." Some guy has taken a couple steps back to look at my shirts, my pentagram necklace, and interrupts me. "Oh, you don't work here, do you?" I laugh a little. No, I don't, but I know where the Paw Patrol stuff is. My kids are playing over there. Having decided against the craft box, I put it back. "Here, I'll show you." We made some small talk as I walked him over and collected my kids and husband so we could move on. We wished each other a happy Christmas and parted ways. I thought we'd really enjoy a nice, wholesome story, you know, to contrast all the really sad, negative, enraging stories that we get on here. Also, kudos to those that actually do help out other customers even though they don't really work there. This story's called Today I Fudged Up by Trying to Impress a Girl by Showing My Humane Side. So this happened a few days ago. I recently got my first city job and there are clearly a few things I still need to learn. The other day, I decided to have my lunch in the city square as my office lunch space was being used to host foreign guests. I sat on a bench next to a hot girl, although we never spoke. I notice a pigeon walking from bench to bench, hoping for a crumb or two with no luck. I wonder why nobody would spare a crumb of their lunch for the poor guy. I thought, dang, city workers really are greedy. So I got a bright idea. I decided to impress this girl sitting next to me by sharing some of my brownie with this pigeon and show my caring side. Well, it turns out this pigeon was somewhat of a celebrity, and within seconds every pigeon in the world and 1 or 2 unhatched eggs swarmed the bench we were sitting on. I mean, they were everywhere. On the backrest of the bench, on top of me, flapping in my face, everywhere. What's worse is that I'm not a fan of pigeons and got straight up and left her there. The poor girl was just quietly and peacefully eating her lunch, and I came along and turned her into pigeon feed. Guess I won't be getting her number. Aw, poor guy. I guess he didn't get the memo to not feed pigeons in the city because they'll go crazy for you. I'm interested in knowing in the comments below any funny stories where you tried to impress someone and you ended up looking like an idiot. This story's called Today I Fudged Up by Trying to Help a Kid in a Wheelchair, then Getting Hit by a Car and Robbed. This happened yesterday. I was sitting at the bus stop near campus waiting for my bus home when I saw a college student on the other side of the street a ways down from me. He was in his backpack shuffling around with some papers when the wind picked up and blew them into the street. He couldn't get off the curb in his wheelchair and people were walking by him, not doing anything. So I hopped up and ran over to help him pick up his stuff. There were no cars coming, so I thought it was safe. I was wrong. I have a bunch of papers in my hand and am bent down trying to pick up another when I hear tires screeching and I knew I had screwed up. Fortunately for me, the car skidded into me and knocked me over, but I wasn't seriously injured, unless you count the emotional injuries. I talked to the driver and explained why I was in the street. I'm fine, so we let it go. I go back to the kid in the wheelchair and hand him what papers I managed to retrieve. This is where the second F up happens. I look back at the bus stop and see that my bus has arrived right on time. It literally never happens except for today, and it's pulling away. I try to get the bus driver's attention, but it's too late. It's like a 6-mile walk home from where I am and a while before the next bus. I could walk, but I have to be at work later, so I decide to call a Lyft. I pull my phone out, only to realize it's dead. No worries, I have a portable charger in my bag. My bag? Where the heck is my bag? I left it sitting on the bench when I went to help the kid, and someone must have taken it. I'm panicking at this point. I had a bunch of important documents in the bag, along with a cheap Toshiba laptop and some other odds and ends, but the worst part of all was the brand new Nintendo Switch I had finally saved up for and bought less than a week ago. I was so bummed I almost started crying, and I'm not really a crier. I decide to just walk home. Unfortunately, my phone is dead, so I can't call my job to explain why I'm not there. About halfway through my walk, it starts raining. Of course, my umbrella was in my bag as well. I actually start laughing at this point. I think I was just starting to lose it. I get home, finally, soaked from the rain and with no keys to get into my house. Where are my keys, you ask? That's right, in the bag. I managed to break through a window in the back of the house, but tear my sweater climbing through the window. At this point, I don't even react. I just want this day to end. I charge my phone, and fortunately, my boss is the coolest and tells me not to worry about coming in. Still sucks that I missed work, but silver linings. I walk into my living room and see the empty box for my new Switch, and I actually start crying this time. I poured myself a glass of bourbon and sat down on the couch with my dog. I don't know which god or gods I angered yesterday, but at least it can't get any worse than this. Oh, let me stop you right there, buddy. You should know way better than to say something like that. It can't get any worse. Do you not notice that 98.45% of the times that is said in a movie or TV show, it gets exponentially worse seconds later? Come on! But it still really sucks that guy's life was temporarily ruined, completely, because he wanted to help someone out. Just goes to show, that's what happens when you help people. I'm kidding, of course. Help people as much as you possibly can. In fact, I'm giving away my entire life savings. All you have to do is... Alright, here is a huge story called Today I Fudged Up by Forgetting I Secretly Made a Portrait of the Girl I Loved. Happened a few hours ago. I don't know if I'll survive the coming week when my dad gets home. So it's Diwali this month here in India, and as per tradition, we clean the entire house down to every single drawer and every single cupboard, every piece of crockery, and other things implying the word meticulous in its truest sense. Since Diwali is on the 29th of this month, there's still a lot of time to get done with the yearly cleaning up, but this year, Mom decided to start early because my sister and my dad wouldn't be at home for the week. So she gets the entire house to herself, except me taking up a small spot to study or browse through Reddit and Instagram. I also help her out as much as I can so that her burden is eased. But she actively refuses any help I offer as she likes doing this stuff alone. Anyway, so she starts the cleanup in my room. This includes everything, from wiping walls with cleaning agents to washing the curtains. Basically, everything is clean. I move my bed to make space for her to have ladder access to all the walls. Then she tells me to move out and let her do her work. About 45 minutes later, I'm in the living room actually studying for once, for the upcoming exams in my college, when my mom calls me. Assuming she needed my help with something, I go to the room to find her cleaning up my study table. She asked me to sift through my cabinet where my old PC's tower used to be. Ever since that trucking potato left this earthly plane, for good, which was 1.5 years ago, I used that particular file cabinet to store my project files, assignments, and artwork. She wanted me to segregate all the papers I didn't need anymore so that they could be sent for recycling. I like sketching and making stencils of things, and I feel proud to say that I'm also fairly good at it. Going back to 2016 for the background story, I was fresh out of Class 10. In the Indian schooling system, passing Class 10 is considered matriculating from school and being eligible for junior colleges. And after passing a 2-year course in said junior colleges, you become eligible for actual colleges. I had joined some coaching classes to help with the new syllabus, and a very close girl friend of mine, named Isha here, was also in the same institution, although in a different batch with a different stream of subjects. I regarded her as a sister and loved her like one too. She's told me there's a girl, let's call her Aditi, who lives in her building, who was also in her batch. Me being the virgin nerd I am, didn't pay much attention to it, because I usually noped away from girls ever since I was a kid, except Isha, who I got close to via a series of unrelated events. At this point, I feel obligated to mention that Isha and I went to the same junior college while Aditi went to a different one. A few days later, during break time in the coaching classes, I'm talking to Isha when Aditi comes up to her. I hadn't seen or interacted with her in any form until then, but when I saw her, when she walked past and said, "Hi, Annan," without being approached first, flowers bloomed. I didn't realize this for an unhealthily long period of time, nearly 7 months, but I fell for her. I fell for her hard. I fell for her harder than when the Tsar Bomba detonated on Mityushka Bay. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen with my eyes, and she still is to this day. Eventually, me and Aditi got talking and I realized I had deep feelings for her. However, due to my nervousness around girls, which was exponentially higher in this case, I decided to suppress my affinity for her and just stay a friend. We gradually grew closer together over the course of a year, to the point where she'd rant to me about how her mom would always nag her, and the usual teenager girl crap. But I helped her through it all anyway, because I did feel like doing everything I could for her while still being in my limits. A few months later, Aditi and I got into a very long and heated argument on our Instagram DMs regarding some stuff. But surprisingly, we came to a friendly conclusion. As it drew to an end, she said, "Annan, I like you." "You what?" "Yes." "Oh, crap!" It hit me like a truck. What most people make memes about and relate to imagination happened to me in real life. It was a lot to swallow at first, considering how sparse female contact has been for me, but I tried not to trip onto anything. Of course, I confess too. It was the happiest day of my life so far. I swear, if she were physically present that time, I would have held her so freaking close to my chest. She'd have been absorbed into my skin. I loved her, from the bottom of my heart and soul alike. This was in the summer of 2018. Being Indian, it's almost guaranteed that being in a teenage relationship will have you face severe repercussions from your family, your neighbors' families, their grandparents, and the dude who collects trash from your house. If you're born into a typical Indian household, it's written in your destiny. I am one such fellow. Hence, I had to be covert about this. Aditi's birthday was around this time, so Isha and a few of her friends, including me, planned to give her a basket full of stuff we made/ordered for her. By this time, both Isha and Aditi knew I could do stencils very well, so Isha asked me to make a stencil of Aditi, which we'd frame for her. I got to work immediately. She sent me a few photos of her and I decided on which one to reproduce. I got to work at the nights around 1 to 2 a.m. when I'd be alone in peace and my mom and dad would be asleep. I finished quite quickly and fired the stencil over to Isha's email. The next morning in school, junior college really, she said it was really good, but she wanted a slightly smaller stencil as it wouldn't fit in the frame otherwise. I started again. This time, I put a lake full of effort to make it my best work so far, and it was. It took me longer, but it was done just in time to have it framed for the big day. When we gifted it to her, it was the best thing ever. I could see the happiness in her eyes and I knew I made her day. Slowly, however, she started to bring up one of my best mates more and more into our conversations. I was getting slightly iffy, but put my faith in her and talked about it. She promised me he's just a friend. He wasn't. Over the next month, she became really cryptic with me. Then one evening, about a few weeks before my birthday, she meets me and finally delivers my worst nightmare. She told me she fell out of love with me, and that her and my mate have a thing between them. Whatever followed was beyond screwed up. Isha, Aditi, my best mate, I fought everyone, and ruined my years of friendship with them all out of rage. From this point on, the past becomes irrelevant to my screw-up today. You remember that first stencil of Aditi I made? I couldn't just crumple it up and throw it away, or destroy it in a fire. Since it was so close to me, I had to keep it. Hide it somewhere. Somewhere my mom or dad wouldn't look. Guess where I hid it? The cabinet where my PC tower was housed. Come back to today, remember my mom was at that very cabinet? Well, I agreed to sort the cabinet out. but I had literally forgotten, or should I say repressed, the fact that I had that stencil stored there. Mom also pulled out paper sheets to help me sort them. By the time we got to the bottom of the pile, she started taking out my artwork. Second to the very bottom, it was that stencil. By the time I realized what that sheet was, Mom had already pulled it out and was staring right into it. Right into Aditi's eyes. I realized my fate was sealed. "Anand, who's this?" Frozen, I accept my end. "Why did you make a drawing of a girl?" "Help! Anand, who is this girl? Tell me right now!" She said she'll report this to Dad once he comes back next week. Whether I'll be allowed to live in the house is debatable. My sister didn't know about this Anand Aditi thing, and I don't think she'll find it objectionable. But I know she wouldn't be able to help me much, should things go south on me. I should be scared for my life right now, but I can't help but laugh at myself and how life's been playing me lately. All I know is it's gonna be a long week ahead. Now, I'm not Indian, but I'm half something close to it. And I can 100% verify this story's validity, I guess. This is very much something that that the youth of Desi families have to deal with. Brown parents are not okay with their kids liking anything at all that's not school or, sports. And even that is sometimes hit or miss. That was a pun. But anyways, regarding this story in particular, I feel like if he played his cards right, he could very much convince his family that it was just a drawing of no one he knew. Or if they know that he knew that girl, they could just be like, yeah, I just drew the picture for her birthday and I forgot about it. That was the first draft. It's so easy to just talk your way out of trouble. Alright, this story's called Just Ring Up My Screws. I promise I don't work here. Really. I ran to the local home improvement store last night for some screws and ended up browsing for a bit. Somewhere between looking at Dremel bits and contemplating a new soldering iron, I hear a man roar rather loudly.
"What do you mean you don't have any? This is like basic stuff. You gotta."
I couldn't hear the employee's response, but it was rather short and he walked away briskly to resume stocking circular saw blades. My next thing to check out was drill bits, situated right behind Mr. Roar. Excuse me, sir, but
Thank God, finally. Ralph, you said he was a really fat guy that looked like Santa Claus. This is a skinny guy in a baseball hat.
I don't work here, I say with a smile.
Well, crud.
He started laughing and then got a lot quieter.
Sorry, man, I was just giving my cousin a hard time. Am I in your way?
Yeah, just wanted to peek at the rack behind you.
I can't believe they don't have any easy outs. I'm just trying to get a broken bolt out of my lawnmower and...
They're on the bottom, right there.
What?
I scoot Mr. Roar away from the rack and grab a set of screw extractors for him.
Man, I knew Ralph doesn't normally work in this department, but he told me they didn't have any. Doesn't matter, though. These are too small.
Oh, there are bigger ones over by the sockets.
Huh? Why aren't they all in one place?
These are for home improvement. The ones over there are counted as mechanics tools. Come on, I'll show you. I lead Mr. Roar over to the sockets, point to what he needs, and begin to walk away to check out.
Ralph! Ralph! He found him!
I continued my beeline for the cashier. It failed. Just as she started her spiel on how to use the credit card terminal, Mr. Roar clapped me on the shoulder as he passed by to leave empty-handed.
Thanks again. It's good to know that at least store management knows what they're doing.
The credit card terminal went blank. Sorry, sir, I didn't recognize you. I don't work here. You don't have to work at this location. The discount is for all company employees. I don't work for your company. Are you sure? Yep, because the company policy says, just ring up my screws. I promise I don't work here. Really. Well, that was a nice story. I always love loud but polite people. Like, I guess loud wouldn't be the right word. Obnoxious but polite people. They're fun. Annoying, but really fun and usually nice, like I said. And kudos to this dude for being honest about not working there. I know a lot of people would have accepted that discount. Alright, this story is insanely long, and it's called Woman Mistakes Me for an Employee, Throws a Tantrum, among other things. Recently, I went to a grocery store. The store is a popular chain in my area. Most of the employees wear reddish polo shirts with black aprons or vests over them. Some just wear unbranded dress shirts or have dress codes unique to their department, like the coat worn by people in the meat department. I was wearing a black polo with a small logo for my occupational therapy clinic. This must have confused one of the other customers. I was picking up some ingredients for a bake sale going on at the grade school my girls attend. My wife was not only the organizer, she was baking 4 items to include in the sale. Since she was at home preparing cookies and brownies, I was sent to get more essentials like sugar and frosting. In the baking aisle, I was kneeling down to reach the large bags of sugar that are always on the bottom shelf. I was reaching towards the back of the bottom shelf since there weren't many bags left. While doing this, I was being careful to not overexert my right hand since I recently had to get stitches and it still hurt. I cut it with a razor while helping to set up a neighborhood haunted house. That's when I heard a high-pitched voice say, "I'll find it myself." I thought the voice was unnecessarily loud, but didn't really give it a second thought as I grabbed the bag and lifted it up to my cart. I placed it on the handle on top of the cart for a moment to give my hand a rest when a woman grabbed the bag off of my cart, put it in her own, and said,
Great, I don't have to go looking for it now.
It was the same voice, and before I could react, she happily walked away and was out of sight as soon as she turned at the end of the aisle. There was nothing for me to do but bend down again and start the process over to get the last bag of sugar. After getting butter and eggs from the back of the store, I went through the condiments aisle to get to the front. The moment I entered the aisle, I saw the woman. I wanted to see if she would say anything as I walked by, but she was occupied with another customer.
Sir!
The woman's voice was so loud and piercing, it literally made me stop in my tracks for a moment.
Could you please help me reach the ketchup? I need ketchup!
She pointed to the top shelf that held the larger sizes of ketchup bottles. She didn't see me yet. She was speaking to an elderly gentleman who was walking with the aid of a cane.
They're too far back,
the woman exclaimed. "I wish I could help you," the man replied, "but I don't think I'll have any more luck than you." The man wasn't much taller than the woman.
But I can't reach the ketchup and I need it.
Fearing that she would not leave the man alone, I stepped in. "I'll get the ketchup for you, ma'am." Reaching up was much easier than getting under a shelf. I could easily use my left hand to grab a bottle for the lady. She looked over her shoulder at me and then turned back to the gentleman.
Let the employee get it.
Again, her voice was loud as if she were trying to speak over some ambient noise that only she could hear. "I'm not an employee, ma'am." The lady turned around to face me.
But I need ketchup.
"I'll help you get the ketchup."
Do you work here?
"No."
Why do you want to get the ketchup?
"I don't want any ketchup. I'm trying to help you."
I need ketchup.
She pointed to the top shelf again. "I know," I said, failing to hide the frustration in my voice. I had to reach over her outstretched arm, but I grabbed the bottle that she appeared to be pointing at. I tried to hand the bottle to her, but she looked at it in my hand and said,
That's not big enough. I need big ketchup.
I sighed and put the bottle back before picking up a 64-ounce bottle.
The lid is on top.
The woman whined. "What?" I asked, thoroughly confused.
The lid is on the top of the ketchup. I need the ketchup with the lid on the bottom.
"You said you wanted the big one. There are only 2 choices. A 64-ounce bottle with the lid on top, or a 32-ounce bottle with an inverted lid."
I need the big ketchup with the lid on the bottom.
I summoned patience I didn't know that I had. "Perhaps you should get 2 of the 32-ounce bottles with the lid on the bottom." I put the larger bottle back and picked up the inverted ketchup bottle. When I held the bottle out for her to take, she just stared at it. So I put it in her cart next to the large bag of sugar and grabbed a second bottle. This one she took from me.
I need the big ketchup.
This time, the woman really yelled.
This isn't the big ketchup. I need the big ketchup.
She drew the attention of the entire store, including several employees that curiously looked in from the end of the aisle. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't think I can help you with your ketchup problem anymore." As I reached for my cart, the woman threw the bottle of ketchup at me. I reacted by deflecting it away with my sutured hand.
Ugh!
I exclaimed in pain. The bottle went flying into the shelf on the opposite side of the ketchup display with a loud cracking sound. Ketchup sprayed all over the products on the shelf. The lid of the bottle had cracked and broke off on impact.
What's going on here?
A woman who appeared to be the manager stepped up from behind the other employees.
He doesn't work here.
The obnoxious woman yelled. "Ma'am, calm down," the manager said, trying to get the lady to quiet down.
Tell me, he acts like he works here.
The woman started pointing at me.
He doesn't work here. Employees should help the customers. He doesn't work here.
I tried to ignore the lady and inspected my hand. It was painful, but no serious damage. "No, he doesn't work here," the manager said calmly.
He followed me through the store and pretended to work here.
"That's not true," the elderly gentleman spoke up.
He offered to help her. He explained that he doesn't work here, and after she asked him,
He was trying to give me the wrong ketchup.
To everyone's relief, the woman was now speaking at her normal volume. The man with the cane continued.
"That man was being as helpful as he could. She wasn't being reasonable."
The manager saw me looking at my hand. "Are you hurt?" "I'll be fine," I replied. "I'm sorry for the mess." One of the other employees stepped close to the manager and spoke in a low voice. "That woman threw the bottle at him. We all saw it."
"That's true,"
the old man added. "Take him and his stuff to customer service and wait for me," the manager told the employee. "If he needs anything for his hand, get it for him." The employee took hold of my cart and asked me to follow him. As I left the aisle, the woman asked,
Are you kicking him out?
"No," the manager replied. At the customer service desk up front, I asked for ice for my hand and the employees promptly provided it. The customer service clerk asked us what happened. "I don't know," I started to explain.
He should be kicked out of the store for pretending to work here."
The loud, shrill voice could be heard through the store. A moment later, the elderly man with the cane walked up to the front of the store and sat on a bench near the customer service desk.
"That woman is crazy,"
he said. Then 2 cops came into the store and followed an employee to the condiments aisle. "I have to call my wife," I said. "I'm supposed to get this stuff for the bake sale to her and it looks like this might take a while."
"Is that the school name, bake sale?"
the customer service clerk asked. "Yes," I said as I made the call. "You know it?"
"My daughter goes to..."
"School name." "Really? My wife is organizing the bake sale." At this point, the call connects and my wife picks up. I tried to explain to her what happened and that it might take longer than expected before I'm home. However, I had to cut my call short when one of the police officers started asking me questions. He asked me a few questions to get my side of the events. I told him everything, including what happened with the sugar. The manager arrived at customer service while I was talking to the officer. Once he was done, she said, "We're going to issue a gift card for the value of the items in your cart." "That isn't really necessary," I said. "It wasn't your fault." "Are you sure?" The manager seemed disappointed. The clerk spoke up. "Well, why don't you consider a donation then?" the manager suggested. "Plus, I think we can donate some custom baked goods from our bakery." "That would be great!" "Have your wife call me as soon as possible. We'll work something out." The clerk and the employee that got ice for me rang up my items, asked if I needed anything else, and issued a gift card for just over the amount of my total and used it to pay for the groceries. They gave me the card, which had less than $5 left. During that time, the cop interviewed the old man. When he was done, the old man asked,
"What happened to that lady?"
"She's been banned from the store," the manager said coldly and walked away with the officer. We both watched as the second officer escorted the lady out of the store as the manager and first officer followed. Wow. Okay, so what I've learned is the Redditor here is a good dude. He's actually really understanding, and I appreciate that coming from one of these stories where everyone just starts screaming at each other and there's no love left in the world. But yeah, good guy manager, good guy everyone, and that lady, she had something wrong with her because that's not rational behavior, not even for a Karen. This story's called Sorry, Not a Witch. Apologize for my mobile typing and any grammar errors and my descriptions because I am a very talkative person and it translates in my writing a lot. Example here. That was very cute. A few stories. They're short, but they bring me and my friends and family a laugh every so often. Here's the cast. There's me, Mom, Dad, Random Lady, Worker, Photographer. This takes place at Universal Studios, bright and early in the Harry Potter Wizarding World area. So I love Harry Potter. I've read all the books. I've read the first one 5 times if I recall, and the third one in a week in 3rd grade. But that's a story not for this subreddit. Anyway, since I love Harry Potter and my mom had bought me some Ravenclaw clothes, my Hogwarts house, for a Luna Lovegood Halloween costume, she thought it might be super fun to do a photo shoot in the park, just for fun and for a few other reasons. My grandpa had just died recently and we were all very sad because of this. So my mom bought a wonderful sign saying something along these lines, "Those that love us never truly leave us," for me to hold in the shoot. Some very important details. At the time, I was a teenager, around 13, 14 years old. We had paid a woman my mom knew to do my makeup, which meant at 4 a.m., my hair and makeup were done and I was dressed up in my costume ready to go to the park. I looked a lot older than I really was. The makeup was amazing and I was so excited for this. We got to the park early, but not totally people-free, which was fine because we didn't mind the amount of people. It just meant we had to be careful with pictures and that we weren't disturbing guests. We ourselves were guests at the park and could be there, but it would be rude to try and take advantage of that unfairly and all. Scene 1. I'm famous. So, with the camera and the photo taking and the entire around 20-year-old look I had, people were taking pictures of me getting my picture taken. Mom, why is everyone looking at me so much? I think they think you're a famous celebrity or something, or you're important because you're having your photos taken. Oh wow, that's funny. Because I was not famous. No. My mother is a goddess and makes friends and is very nice and amazing, so she planned this all very well. I finish my picture in the area and we move on. I start to notice that, yes, people are looking at me because I look rather authentic. My outfit looks like what the actual workers are wearing and I look a lot older, so it's no surprise this happens. And yes, here's where the random lady comes in. Scene 2. We decide to ask if I could have my picture taken in one of the ride's waiting lines. That meant we could get in, take pictures, and leave, not ride the ride itself and cut a bunch of people. This is because at most rides in the Harry Potter area, the inside decoration is great and very detailed. So of course I'd fit right in with my outfit and wand.
Okay, we'd like to try and take pictures here. Is that okay?
Sure, I'll lead the way. As long as you don't disturb anyone or cut the line, that's fine. My mom, dad, the photographer, and me all go follow the worker when I get stopped by someone. The area before the ride to put your bags and stuff away is very hectic. I had been on the ride the day before and I knew the rules for the bags and loose items already, as well as how crazy this place can be. Excuse me? Can I bring this bag on the ride? She gestures to her purse. I don't. My group is getting farther away and I'm scared to lose them, so I skip the mess and just say, "You can't bring purses on this ride, you'll have to put them in a cubby, miss." I point at a sign on the wall that has a no bags allowed picture on it. "I'm sorry, but I have to go now." I walk off quickly and join my group, wondering what the heck just happened. I told my mom and dad and then realized that she must have thought I worked there. Since I looked like I was in my 20s with the makeup, my outfit was very close to the workers. Actually, I looked eerily similar to most workers, and that the place was dark. Anything that said I was a teen was unseeable in this little room. So we all had a laugh, and later in the room, I got a lot of stares for the picture taking and got very flustered. I'm not good with open staring if I know it's happening, and whoever is staring is close or I can't see them. Which is a little odd since I'm doing this photo shoot, but whatever. I knew the people doing my pictures better, so I didn't mind them. It was their job after all. Haha, oh no, my butt fell off. And that's it. Overall fun and simple despite my rambling description of what the heck everything was. And the pictures from that area were really fun to shoot. This story is really fun to talk about when I tell friends and guests about the shoot if they ask, because I'm a little known for being assumed older. And the more it happens, the better it gets really. Haha, oh no, not again. Alright, this story didn't have the usual Dragon Ball-esque screaming and fighting and transforming into hideous monsters and all that jazz. No, this story was wholesome, it was cute, and I liked it a lot. The writing was good, and like the whole subject matter was just precious. I really liked this story, wow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.